Welcome, dear influential leaders. Here it is, the moment we've been all waiting for. This episode is for everyone who values growth, persistence, authenticity, and pragmatism. Today we learn step by step how anyone can create his or her perfect dream life. Today's episode shows you how one can change from an IT geek into a YouTuber with 166,000 subscribers. What? Yes, we thought the same. John is the perfect example of a leader who takes his future into his hands, makes a concrete plan towards a definite goal, and works persistently until he reaches his goal. You have heard us talking about our coaching and consulting organization Earn More, Work Less, where we help fast-growing companies fulfill better and faster. How do we do that? By transforming employees into real action-taking leaders like John.
Today's story is a story that demonstrates what personal growth really is all about. It's the positive, honest and empowering story of an outstanding software developer, entrepreneur and transformational coach called John Sonmez. When we met him earlier this year in Las Vegas, he showed us a photo of himself 10 years ago, and nobody would have guessed that that's the same guy. This man went through a total transformation, physically, mentally and spiritually. John made self-development his priority, and it shows by all the wonderful initiatives he's working on. John became known through his many thousands of videos on the YouTube channel now called Bulldog Mindset. Currently, John's working on his book with the same title, The Bulldog Mindset. Lenka found him so amazing that she had to ask on behalf of the audience if he is single or not. The answer you'll find out in the interview. Now it is time to present to you John Sonmez. Hey, welcome John to our Influential Executive Podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining. We are very excited about picking your brain during this conversation. You have had a very steady rise in terms of your audience on the YouTube channel that you're leading, the Simple Programmer channel. You're working on all kinds of new initiatives as well. There's so much we'd like to ask you and so much we want to share with our audience as well. We're all growth-minded entrepreneurs looking to get ahead with their business, build their audience, and increase their impact.
Awesome. Yeah, actually, I changed the channel. I think since last time we talked, it's now I rebranded under Bulldog Mindset. So that's the new channel, but pretty similar content.
Awesome. So you went from Simple Programmer to Bulldog Mindset.
Correct. Yeah.
What triggered you to make that change?
Well, I felt like I was limiting my audience a lot because a lot of people were commenting. They're saying, well, the stuff that you put out here is really good. It's really motivational. It's helping me develop mental toughness to achieve my goals. But I didn't realize that it was just for anyone because it said programmer on it. So I was getting a lot of those comments. So I wanted to really expand out, and I felt like I had enough of a seed of an audience in order to expand out to a wider audience. So I decided to make the change over and not focus so much on programmers anymore. I haven't been doing programming for quite a while as well. So I sort of felt like there was a bit of a disconnect between me and my audience there. So that was what prompted the change.
Interesting. And who is your target audience? Because I remember reading your website, a simple programmer, and it's mostly for software developers, right?
Right.
So
yeah.
Why did you choose such a target audience?
Well, I originally was a software developer. So I started out as a software developer, and what I found in my career was that developing the kind of social skills and the mental toughness and those type of things were more beneficial to my career than the technical skills. And no one was really focusing on that. So that was originally my niche, was to focus on developing soft skills for software developers. In fact, I wrote my first book is called Soft Skills for Software Developers, right? And so that was what kind of got me on that focus. And that's where I started with YouTube and whatnot. But as I started producing that content, I realized again, like I said, that I wasn't doing programming anymore. I was running this business. I was doing more entrepreneurial things. So my audience sort of shifted because my interests. I've always kind of gone with what my interests are, because I feel like in order to grow an audience, right, like one of the most effective things you can do is to let your audience know what your passion is, and that enthusiasm that's going to carry over, and they're going to be more about what you're excited about, like teaching about that or talking about that, than if you just stick to a specific subject matter. So what I ended up doing was actually split the business. So there's Simple Programmer still exists. It's still a brand. It's still doing well and growing. My business partner, Josh Earl, is actually running that as the CEO, and I'm advising and I'm on the board essentially. I'm still an owner. But I pulled off the Bulldog mindset brand so I could focus on the mental toughness, the discipline, all those type of things that are disconnected. So we've got I've got both of the businesses running now, but now I have a clear separation, because a lot of what was happening too with Simple Programmer was there was kind of a confusion in the audience, because like, well, John isn't really talking about programming stuff hardly at all anymore. I like this content. So I wanted people to be able to say, okay, this is clearly where, if I want the mental toughness and the Bulldog mindset and all of this kind of philosophy and stuff like that, we're going to go here on the YouTube channel, Bulldog Mindset brand. If I want the programming career advice and some of the soft skills for software developers, it still exists. It's just under the Simple Programmer brand. So.
Is it fair to say that with the Bulldog mindset, you go a level deeper? So where skills are more on the surface, mindset is about the deeper inner workings of what goes on in the mind of your audience?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really good way of looking at it. Is the Bulldog mindset and focusing on mindset is much deeper. I tackle things like Stoic philosophy. Right now I'm reading all of Seneca's letters to Lucilius and doing commentary on them. So there's a big series on there. I go into just, as I'm doing hard workouts, what it takes and sort of, the things that mindset is going to drive the rest of the stuff, right? So I'm looking at like, how can you, tolerate pain better? How can you force pain upon yourself in order to grow as a person, right? How can you go and, become as productive as possible by changing your mindset and your view on work, instead of thinking of it as a short sprint and waiting to be done, realizing that every day there's a battle and every day you're going to fight and it's never going to end. And that mindset shift changes your endurance. It changes how productive you are. It changes how you view everything. So everything sort of stems from that. If you want, and I talk about subjects of wealth and health and relationships, the classic three, self-development areas, but it all is rooted in this mindset, right? If you want wealth, it's about the mindset, right? If you want your health and you want fitness and you want to be a strong competitor or athlete, again, it's mindset. And even in relationships, right? It's mindset. It's the confidence. It's the self-esteem. It's the ability to present yourself and not be self-conscious that is going to create the best relationships in your life.
Yeah. What I like about it is that you don't only talk about it, you also practice what you preach. So right here, when I look at the screen, I see arms that are the size of my legs.
It's pretty much correct.
and you're practicing for a marathon run as well. And that's not something that comes easy.
Yeah. No, it's and that's the thing is, I'm a big believer in pushing myself. I've learned more about myself by pushing myself physically than perhaps anything else. When you reach those physical limits, it teaches you. You sort of, and even this is something that's been known for a long time, right? If you look at the yogis, right, the traditional Eastern philosophy, right? There's the three ways of the yogis, right? There's and I might get this a little confused, but I think the fakir is like the physical discipline and essentially the aesthetic, right? Where you're going through pain and you're reaching some enlightenment towards that. There's the I forget the one where it's knowledge, right? It's the like learning and wisdom and all this, and then there's the path of the faith, of the spiritual of faith meditation monk, right? You could think of that. And so each one of those paths takes us, right? And so when you go and push yourself to the physical limit, you learn something. There's a certain amount of enlightenment, like wisdom, that comes from that. And so to me, that's really important. Like I have developed a lot just by seeing where my limits are and then trying to push beyond those.
I understand that what you have learned so far is the result of a whole journey in terms of self-development. So I'm very excited to hear the story on where the journey began. What was the trigger for you to start working on yourself rather than chasing whatever external incentives you may have around you?
Sure. Yeah. There was actually a couple of different inflection points. And I think that a lot of changes and transformations in life happen where it's not all at once, right? There's like these inflection points you hit. Tony Robbins would call them breakthroughs, right? So I've had multiple breakthroughs that have happened. So the first one that I remember was when I was way back when I was in high school. I remember, not being a very athletic kid at all, not being very motivated, just being just this normal kind of kid, and not being very popular in school and all these things. And I remember waking up one morning and thinking to myself that this phrase came into my head: why not me? Right. And so, and what I was thinking about in terms of saying why not me was like, why can other kids, why are they like successful academic athletes, popular, like all this, but why not me? And the answer was there's no reason why not. They have the same, they're humans, they have the same physical makeup, they might have slightly different genetics, but it's all mine. I could choose to be that if I want to. So I started from that day forward doing what you might call fake it till you make it, or acting as if. So I envisioned in my mind a version of myself that would be like the perfect version of myself, that who I'd want to be, not someone else, but myself as I would want to be, right? Yeah. So how would I walk? How would I talk? How would I dress? What would I eat? What would I do, right? How would I present myself? And I started, just like an actor, I started pretending to be that person. I started playing that role, right? Trying that on, putting on those shoes of that person. And I just started playing that role. And what eventually happened over time was I started to become that person. Like, it wasn't an act anymore. You just became that. And it wasn't a fake thing, because it was me. It was the version of myself that I had, but it was sort of this unleashed version, right? And so that was sort of the first inflection point. And those changes didn't happen as rapidly. They took some time. Immediately I started acting that part, but eventually those changes became real. But then there wasn't really much growth beyond that for a while. I sort of forgot about this, right? I'd sort of changed as a person, and then at that point I had enrolled in sports, became athletic, started doing really well in school, and became a software developer. But that was about it, right? And then, so I was a very rational person as a software developer, very much, analytical mind. People would often talk to me about stuff like, maybe Tony Robbins, and I'd be like, this is ridiculous. Get out of here with this crazy, stuff, right? And then I started getting successful in my career and started kind of doing some entrepreneurial stuff and looking into sales and marketing. What ended up happening was I kept on asking millionaires when I'd meet them. I was like, what one book would you recommend, right, that I read? And so many of them kept on saying Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. and I had tried to read that book before, because I had picked it up before. Someone had recommended it. And I got like part of the way through, and I'm like, this is trash. This is ridiculous. He's he cured his kid's hearing problem by wishing it. Like I said, I'm like, this guy is a charlatan. It's BS, right? And finally it was like, okay, after so many successful people tell you, I picked up the book again, and I'm like, look, I'm gonna, like, there has to be something here, right? So I'm gonna give it another try. And I read through it again, and I still wasn't super impressed, but I was a lot more receptive to the message, right? And I started asking these questions, and I ended up reading books like Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, right? Yeah. Which that had a big impact on me. I ended up reading just a lot of the kind of classical books that you would say that that are impactful. I actually read Awaken the Giant Within. That was a huge one. And then, for some reason, I ended up going to a Tony Robbins to Date with Destiny. I signed, ended up signing up for it. And it was just, I almost left because again, I was like, there's crazy people that are dancing here. Like I had my laptop out and I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right, I'm ready to take notes to become more productive and work on myself. Right. And it's like, people are stepping on my laptop. I'm like, they're hugging me. I was just about ready to leave. And one of the coaches was like, no, you paid a lot of money, just stick it out. Like, you could get a refund if you want, but trust me, this will be worth it. So I stuck it out. And it really was a life-changing experience. And I'm kind of accelerating the process, but it was those kind of things that got me on that path of personal development. And, I found myself reading books like, Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, right? And I'm like, and even though I wasn't totally agreeing with everything he was saying, I was like receptive to it. And as I was like going into this space that I would have called the woo-woo land, I started having a lot more success in my life. I started being happier. I started feeling better. I started growing as a person more. And I realized that, there's a lot of things that we don't understand with our analytical mind. And that's okay. And we don't have to know why things work in order for them to work. And there's an element of things that we're never going to understand. And so I've been a lot more open, right? It doesn't mean that I just, listen to any charlatan that comes along preaching, some kind of snake oil. But at the same time, I made this transformation from being a very, very analytical, I have to see the facts, to someone who's open to say like, let's see, I'll try something and see if it works and see what happens. And that really helped my growth. And that put me on that path of personal development.
Wow, what a story. And something you said triggered me to invite you for a small thought experiment.
Okay.
So, here's John, a couple of years ago. Version A, version B. Version A is the path that you actually traveled, leading to where you are now. Version B would have said no to self-development, to Think and Grow Rich, to psycho-cybernetics, all of that. What is the difference in your business when you compare version A to version B a couple of years down the road where we are today?
Simple. There is no business. There's no, I can't see my business existing without going down that path, because for a couple of reasons. One, it's just, when I had this other mindset, and I have a lot of people I think that are on this path have always been entrepreneurs or have come from that mindset, or they had, like, when I was growing up, like my dad was in the Air Force and I got a job as a regular job, and then got a job as a software developer. I did not even think that there was some kind of path where I could become a millionaire without, being 65 years old and investing my money in the 401k or stock, long-term investments. I didn't think that I could create a job for myself and be an entrepreneur, right? I had these limiting beliefs. I was sitting in the cubicle and I would try to think of ways to make money, and I would always shoot them down. I wouldn't think it's possible. No one could do this kind of stuff. So the business wouldn't even exist without me breaking down those limiting beliefs. And that breaking down those limiting beliefs came from that path of personal development. So, and not only that, I think just as an entrepreneur, as someone who's building a business, you can't survive if you don't have some kind of power beyond yourself and true belief in yourself, because you will go down, like you will go on a roller coaster ride as an entrepreneur. You will have highs and you'll have lows, and you'll wonder, why the hell are you doing this? And sometimes the only answer to why the hell you're doing this is because this will make you stronger. Yeah. You will grow from this experience. And that's why you're pushing on. And that's why, you ask yourself that question. If you don't have that answer, then if you're just analytical, then why the hell are you still doing this? The answer is stop doing this, and you'll just stop and you'll give up and you won't push on.
John, Simple Programmer, it started like a blog, am I right?
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah. It
Why did you
started
start
as,
a blog?
well, as I was working as a software developer, I wanted to start sharing some of the knowledge that I was learning. It was almost like a passive aggressive way to communicate to my coworkers and boss about what, because you would have these discussions, right? And I was as a software developer, I was well read. I would read way more software development books than most of the developers, and I would read blogs online, and I would study. So I knew what I was talking about. But a lot of times when I get into discussions about how we should do things, it would turn into this like ego match, and people would not be open to listen, and they wouldn't be very receptive. And so what I decided to do is I said, well, you know what, I can sort of share what we should be doing, or the right way, or what I've learned on this blog. And it'll get out there, and then my coworkers will read this, and then my thoughts will be clearly put out there. And there's a certain authority that comes from, even if you've self-published it, but having your work on the internet, right? It's like all of a sudden people were like, oh, well, I read your blog post, and this, so this is as if I suddenly had some magical, I'm now a wiser person because I wrote it down in a blog post, as opposed to I'm saying the same thing. So that's how it started out. It was really just to get those ideas out there. And I had been reading a lot of software development blogs. And so I had no idea, I had no plan of making a business or anything like that. I just wanted to, write and get those thoughts out there, and share those thoughts, and share them with, whoever else would read it too, because I felt like I had a lot of experience and wisdom from this area that a lot of people weren't talking about. And then also, I think one of the other big factors was, there's, again, a big ego issue in software development world. And I felt like software developers were making things more complicated than they needed to be in order to make themselves seem smarter. And I felt like this was just stupid and ridiculous. So actually, the original name of the blog was Making the Complex Simple Programmer. That's where it came from. And my whole goal was to just take these complex things that people were saying were so complicated, and say, no, look, anyone can do this. It's so simple. Here it is. And so I would take complex topics, condense them down, and give you a simple explanation so you could understand it.
Right. And at a certain moment, you started to blog or talk to your audience more about mindset. How long time did you take before you actually dared to start sharing your thoughts and experiences?
It took quite a while. I mean, from the very beginning, I wrote a lot of what you could call soft skill content, because I wrote about teams. We were doing Scrum, which is like an agile process during that time. And I was talking about how effectively to do that. But I didn't really get into, I still did a lot of technical content, and it was more about the software development, until what ended up happening was, actually the blog itself spurred this, because as I was getting more popularity with the blog, being consistent, and suddenly other people were reading this blog, I started getting job opportunities and phone calls. And, I would get a call from a company that would say, hey, we want to hire you for this job. I'm like, oh, do you mean you want me to interview? No, we want to hire you. All the developers at our place, we read your blog, and we know that, we and so I was like, wow, this is interesting. And then I started doing some podcasts and in the software development community, and I was building up this brand, and all of a sudden my salary started going up. And, because I was actually an authority, I had built my own, platform essentially, and I saw how valuable it was. So I was doing a lot of technical training for a company called Pluralsight, and I was doing talks at different conferences. And I thought, why not do a talk about how to market yourself as a software developer? Because that's what I learned how to do, was like how to sell myself. And I was reading a lot of marketing books and building a brand and all this stuff. And no one was talking about this, right, in software development. So I went to a conference and I gave this talk, and people went wild. After the conference, there was like this line of people that wanted to talk to me and ask me more about this, and how I built my brand, and how they could build a brand, and how they could market themselves. And I started to realize that this soft skills content was pretty valuable, and no one was providing it. So that was sort of the gateway. So I started writing more soft skills stuff, still really career related, about marketing yourself and whatnot. And that as I around that same time, I started to intersect with that personal development path that I was talking about with the Tony Robbins and reading Think and Grow Rich and all that. And as those things intersected, and I ended up quitting my job and becoming more successful and becoming an entrepreneur. All of a sudden, I'm on this path of personal development, and now I have something new to share with my audience. It's not just how to market yourself; it's how to change and transform yourself and become, the person you're capable of becoming. And that's a much more powerful message, because once you do that, then you can accomplish anything that you want. So that's where it started to shift. Once I saw that power, I mean, one of the themes of my life has always been, I figure things out and then I have to share them. So it's sort of what I'm going through. As I was learning as a software developer, my skills, I was teaching that. As I was learning the soft skills and the social skills as a software developer and how to market myself, I started teaching that. And then as I started to go down that personal development path and training hard physically and all of these things, I started to teach that as well.
I know that there are many people in today's world who see these social media influencers. Here's John, 166,000 YouTube subscribers. I want that. He can do whatever he wants, has a huge audience, seems like a beautiful life. Give me the strategies. How can I get the same? Then when I listen to your story, I hear that what drove you to get started is nothing like that. You got started with your blog as a way to express yourself, and you developed it because of the conversations you had with your audience. You heard what else they need to move forward. You started to provide that. And it was more of an expression of your own journey rather than a vehicle to get you that perfect life that you envision for yourself.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. Yeah, that's that. And I think that's one key thing is it's like, I've heard it said before that you can't be successful at something that you don't enjoy doing. Right. And it's not that I've always enjoyed. I mean, there's a lot of work, right? Consistency, commitment, doing hard stuff when you don't feel like doing it. Those are all really important factors. But it's always been for me about not trying to please please other people, but to do the work that is fulfilling to me, right? That I feel needs to be done, right? And that's what's always been the underlying current, right? That's what's kept me going. And I think that's, a lot of people that are trying to grow a big channel or grow a big audience, they're basically doing what, there's a really good book by Stephen Pressfield called The War of Art, one of my favorite books of all time. And he calls it being a hack, right? And what being a hack is, what he defines is where you write as an author, not what you want to write or what you feel you need to write, but what you think will market and sell the best, right? That's what he defines being a hack. And that's where I think a lot of people make mistakes in growing audiences. And when you see this kind of generic advice that's kind of parroted all the time, is because they're not genuine. They're not authentic, right? And that's one thing that I feel, and I've been there before. I'm not going to say that I've never ever gone down that path, but I found that the best growth, the best success that I've ever had is just being genuine and authentic as possible, right? Sometimes there's some vulnerability in there, but it's relating as a human being, saying like, look, I've done this, I made this mistake. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. I'm not trying to present a better life than what I have. I'm just leveling with you, and I think that's the powerful thing, that if you look at most of the people that have built massive audiences, they're genuinely authentic, most of them, right? You would find that's true.
Awesome. I still have that image in mind of that person in the cubicle. And I know that also within our audience, many people are already entrepreneurs, are growth minded. I also know that many people in our audience are still in a job, their second or third job. They're again doing an awesome job. They may be frustrated by their manager or some policies that are going on. And they're playing with this idea of breaking free. They're playing with this idea of taking what they know how to do very well, finding the people who need it, and then providing it to them. What else can you recommend to this group of people?
Yeah, it's a tough, it's taking the leap, right? And it's interesting. My mindset about this has changed a little bit over time. I still think that the best thing that you can do if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to take this leap, is to continue to work your regular job and then to start building your thing on the side. And there's a couple of reasons to do this for doing this. One of them is because it's going to take time. It's going to it's not going to happen nearly as like if you're going to build a business, if you're going to build an audience, I always tell entrepreneurs now, and they don't like this, but I say, expect it to be about 5 years before you make any money, or before you even build an audience, before anyone even cares. Right now, if you're consistent and committed, it'll probably happen in 2, but it may take 5. But I guarantee you, if you wake up tomorrow and you write a blog post, I don't even care what your niche is or what your topic is, but if you write a blog post and you publish it every day for 5 years, or you make a YouTube video every day for 5 years, or whatever it is, or you make a podcast every day for 5 years, you will have an audience and you will have a business in 5 years. It's almost guaranteed. Most people will not do that, right? And it doesn't mean that you have to do it every day. I'm just saying that that's a guarantee. Like I always, with success, I always figure out what is the guaranteed thing that is going to give you success, and then back off from there, right? So if you want to make sure you're going to have success, start at that. Like what could I do that could not possibly fail, right? And that's where, like, even for the marathon training that I'm doing right now, I'm doing runs and I'm training to the point where I'm over prepared, right? Because I know that, like, if I started running like 10-mile runs 4 times a week. If I do that and then I start throwing in 20-mile runs on Sundays, there's no way that I can't do a marathon. There's no way, right? And I can back off from there, but that's like a guarantee, right? So that's the first thing I'd say is make sure, work your regular job, but do this on the side. And like I said, number 1 reason is because it's going to take longer than you think. Number 2 reason is because it's going to be harder than you think. Okay. So if you can't work an 8-hour job and give it your best, and then work another 4 to 5 to 6-hour job at night and on the weekends, you're not going to make it as an entrepreneur. Because the first part of being an entrepreneur, even if you quit your regular job, is going to be rolling the boulder up the hill. Okay. And that's the hardest part. Once you get to the top and it starts rolling down and you got things going, then it becomes easier. But there's going to be grind, and it's going to be grind and grind and grind and grind and hustle, and it's going to be painful. And you're going to have to endure. You're going to have to be the kind of person that can work 10, 12, 14-hour days and keep on going in the face of exhaustion and discouragement, right? So if you can't hold your regular job and do the side business at the same time, just keep the regular job, because you're not going to make it as an entrepreneur. It's a good test, right? This way you don't quit your job, and because that's what it's going to take, right? And I was rudely surprised by I started out with my regular job and doing obviously my business on the side, but when I quit my full-time job, I thought, oh, this is going to be easy now, because I'll just, and it was just as hard. It was just as hard. I was still working, 12, 14-hour days until I got the boulder up the hill. And then I'd say that the third reason is because it's just from a financial perspective, right? If you just quit your job and just chase after your dream, like I said, it's going to take, what if it takes you 5 years, right? You're not going to make it long enough, right? And it just doesn't make sense, right? You don't want to take out credit cards and mortgage your house and all this stuff betting on a business, because chances are whatever business you start off, it's probably going to fail, right? It's probably going to take you, a good 5-10 tries before you finally get traction, you finally get something going, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And it's real hard to be successful with a gun to your head. And if you quit your job and you don't have money coming in, and you're like, I saved up my money, I've got 6 months to make this business work, it's tough. You're going to sit there in Starbucks, quote, writing your book, and you're going to do nothing because you've got so much pressure on you, right? You've now some people can thrive under pressure, and I'm not saying that a lot of entrepreneurs haven't done that, but it's a much wiser decision to keep the job and start the side business and get to the point where, and here's the thing is, like, you don't have to make enough money in your side business to replace your income. Mm-hmm. You only have to make enough money to replace your expenses, right? Because you've got your income and then you've got your expenses, and your expenses are much less than your income. And while you're building the side business, while you're at your job, this is what you should be doing. You should be reducing your expenses as much as possible, right? Get rid of that car. I'm sorry, you don't get a new car with payments anymore. Now you get this old jalopy that's paid off, right? Downsize your house, right? Downsize your spending habits, your eating out, like all this stuff. Take your cell phone bill down, right? Take everything down so that you're living as lean as possible, because then your freedom number in your side business is much easier to achieve, right? If you're living off of $2,000 a month, all your side business has to do is make $2,000 a month, and then you're free. You can quit your job, and now you can devote your full time to it, and that you can grow it. So many people are they're like, well, I'm making $100,000 a year, so I got to get 100,000 on my side business, and then that's going to take a long time, and it's going to be hard to do that part-time. But if you can reduce your expenses, you make it so that you can exit the rat race at a much without having to grow your business quite as much, and that'll be that's the path that I would choose today.
I'm still interested in the IT world because I find it fascinating. I think that the ITers, they're almost like a special kind of human beings.
Yeah.
And you do not look like a typical ITer, at least not when I met you in person, not right now. So I'm really interested in what made you so successful, because talking to ITers, it's completely different than talking to any other human being. What made you, it's true, right? And
Yeah.
John is speaking about something so intangible, such as mindset. It's very abstract. Well, from what I know, I worked for an IT company for quite some time. It's somehow difficult to explain what mind is about and what all of that mindset is about. So what made you so successful?
So I would say that one of the big things that, and it's not very popular, but it's true, right? It's not necessarily politically correct, but here's the thing, is most people that go into the IT field do so because of a set of common attributes that they have, right? Mm-hmm. That pushes them that direction, right? Maybe they're bullied or picked on in school, right? You're going to find like these common traits. It doesn't, you can't classify everyone, but you're going to find that they're probably not popular, that they have bad social skills, right? And so they gravitated towards the computer because that was the thing that they didn't require other people, and they could become good at that. And that could be their thing. And maybe they played a lot of video games. And so they were, they gravitated towards the IT field because of that. And so that is one of the reasons why you see that you see so many IT people that are very similar. Now, that's not everyone, right? And that was actually me, right? That was why I ended up, the computer was something that I could do. That was my friend that was always there. That was, something I could excel at and be good at. But the problem is that today in society, like just having technical skills, and it's not just today, but having technical skills is not enough. And it is not the key thing that causes success, right? A lot of it is those communication skills, is those social skills, and everything else that is entailed in personal development. So I was, fairly successful as a software developer, right? Without having those social skills. But once I started overcoming my fears and learning how to talk to people and learning how to express myself. And a lot of that even just came beginning from writing, right? Writing is a great way to learn how to organize your thoughts, to put yourself out there, right? And be exposed to criticism, right? And to develop that habit of good communication. Once I started developing those skills in the personal development, and I started pushing myself physically, it all basically transferred into my career, because now I was confident. Now I could communicate and talk to people. Now I could express myself better, and I could market myself, and I wasn't ashamed to market myself. And all those things made a big difference. And I'd say, you know, and this is one of the things I talked about a lot in my course on how to market yourself as a software developer, was this idea that there's a multiplier, right? So you've got, and there's different ways that you could kind of phrase this, but you've got skills, right? And then you've got the kind of the flash, or what you'd say, I'm trying to think of what the word was now, but essentially it's style. It's like substance and style, right? This is maybe the best way to do the equation. So it's substance times style equals success, right? And that's the thing. It's like, you can have the substance, right? You can be very, very good technically, but if you don't have marketing, if you don't have the style, you're working with limited resource. If your factor is 1 on the marketing and the style, then and you could communication, you could fill that all in there. You're just going to be as good as your technical skills are. No one's going to know who you are. But if you got style plus substance, okay, then now you've got a really awesome combination, because whatever you have in the technical skills or your ability, and you multiply it by your marketing ability, your ability to market yourself, and the style aspect of it, that's what's going to result in the greatest success. And so I think a lot of IT people, a lot of developers, they want to focus on just developing technical skills. And that will only take you so far. You need the multiplier. You need to get out there. You need to build a platform, build a brand, market yourself, right? And learn the skills that are required to do that. That's the communication skills, right? Building up the confidence, right? All of those things are gonna accelerate your progress.
And I remember a lot when I was approaching IT people from where I worked, that they were somehow scared to talk to me. They were almost as if I'm going to judge them, and they were always nicely surprised that at the end I had zero judgment and we had a very nice conversation. So is it something just related to women? And if so, do you help as well software developers, ITers? Do you help them to kind of know how to pick up girls, how to get relationships? Is it something you do as well?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a big aspect of it, right? If you look at software developers in general, it's probably like a 90% male dominated field, at least in the United States, and the interests lie there. And so I think that one of the biggest fears that a lot of developers, and I didn't really learn this too much until I started my YouTube channel, and because then the demographic sort of changed to like 20 to 25-year-old, a lot of younger guys, is that they're very, very shy, very, very afraid of women, and because they don't have any confidence, right? And they're just, their biggest fear in life, the biggest thing that they struggle with in life, is actually approaching women to build the relationships. And it's sad, it almost seems like, it's kind of funny when you say, like, you teach software developers how to pick up girls, and it almost seems like a bad thing to do. But I'll tell you honestly, like, if you look at what's happened in the world, like the mass shootings and stuff that have happened, when you look behind the story, you see a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times, a frustrated male, right, that feels like he can't have a successful relationship in his life, that he's a reject. He's not able to express himself as a man, to get a woman into his life, that he feels like he's picked on, that he's not good enough, that society is looking down on him. He doesn't have that confidence, and so he wants to level it. He wants to say, this world is unfair. These women are unfair. They treat me bad. They don't know what great guy I am. These guys treat me bad. I should just kill them. They don't deserve to live. He's able to dehumanize the rest of humanity because of that. And so when you teach a person like that before they have these kind of events, that, you know what, you can get out there and you can be successful. You can overcome your fear and just talk to people, and you can learn how to do this, and you'll grow in that process. You will, as a person, realize that, wow, I'm capable of doing this. I could actually go and talk to this girl over here, and all of a sudden everything shifts, right? Everything shifts. Instead of having that victim mindset, it's an empowered mindset. And so I started creating some content based on that, and doing some coaching, and helping guys to overcome what really, for a lot of software developers and IT people, is their biggest struggle, their biggest fear and worry in life. And so I definitely do a lot of that content, and I feel like also for these guys, a lot of them that I've worked with, once they overcome that, wow, they're like, I can do anything, because that's their biggest fear in life. That's the biggest thing that holds them back. And now they have confidence in all the rest of their life, right? Even though, that kind of thing you could say is kind of very trivial, and I don't know, like, there's definitely a bad connotation to some degree with that, but it's not about, like going and picking up girls. It's more about facing your fear, confronting it, realizing that you can put yourself out there and being able to face rejection. And that is what makes you confident in the rest of your life, and really can change the entire direction of a man's life. So.
No, I can second that.
That's right.
I remember exactly where I was when I was 23 years old, and it was the first time that actually a girl, in my case, told me that a book exists that explains you step by step how to pick up girls. It was the Mystery Method.
Okay, yeah.
All I remember is thinking, I have to get my hands on that book. Why did nobody ever tell me that this exists? It's amazing. It's like cooking a recipe. Just follow these steps. And of course, it wasn't as simple as just following these steps. There's a lot of stuff that happens internally as you put yourself out there, try things out. She rolls her eyes, walks away, and you try the next conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what set me on this path of self-development. And indeed, the moment you start conquering these fears, you realize you can do anything. And before you know it, you're married to the most beautiful girl in the entire Czech Republic.
Yeah. And it has a lot to do with self-image.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think about yourself? How do you see yourself or visualize yourself? So could you give us some tips on how to change your self-image in at least few steps for all of those people who would like to indeed get more confident and get out there?
So the biggest thing that I would say about changing your self-image, and anyone that's struggling with this should definitely read Psycho-Cybernetics, because that's really the foundational book on self-image. And basically what Maxwell Malt says in that book is that you cannot act in a way that violates your self-image. So if you want to change how you act and how you behave and who you are, you have to change that self-image, right? You can do it. You can hold back for a while. And here's how I think of it is I liken it to a rubber band, right? So let's say that I want to change some kind of behavior in my life, right? If I use my willpower, it's like I'm pulling back on the rubber band. It's like, right? Don't eat junk, don't, whatever it is, you know what I mean? Whatever addictions you might have in your life. And what's eventually going to happen is when that tension becomes too much, it's going to snap back the other way, right? And it's going to go back the other way. And so you're that, and people do this all the time. They're trying to change who they are. They're trying to change their behavior. And what ends up happening is they fall down harder. And then they get down on, it's a downward spiral, right? So to change your self-image is critical, because your nature, right, who you are defines what you do, right? If your self-image, if who you are changes, the behavior flows from that, right? And so, and this is why certain people like Tony Robbins have been successful in changing people almost in an instant, even though it seems, because he changes their self-image, how they view themselves, and the behavior naturally changes automatically. So you can break an addiction like that. And I've done it myself, but it requires changing the self-image. So how to change the self-image. Now, the best way that I found to change your self-image is not to just think happy thoughts and think, right? I mean, to some degree, I think there's two aspects of it that I think are really, really critical. The first one is to take action like the image of the person you would like to be. And you probably, this probably sounds familiar to what I talked about earlier in my story. I kind of stumbled upon this, but when I started pretending to be the person I wanted to be and acting like that person, I became that person. Just the other day, I was recording a video. Someone was asking, how do you run 10 miles like every day? And I'm like, I'll tell you what, just do it. Like just start running. Like you're not going to make it the whole 10, but if you just committed in your head, I'm like, I'm going to run 10 miles every single day. And you went through that in 1 month, guess what you would become? You would become a runner, and your mind would say, I'm a runner. You would stop saying, I can't do this. You would say, I do this. I must be a runner because I'm doing this, right? Like, and that's what happens. Like, for me to think of myself as an endurance athlete, it's ridiculous. I'm 220 pounds. I hardly ever ran in my life. I hated running, and I'm going to run 26.2 miles, and I'm, running 50 miles a week. But now I see myself as that because I've been doing it. So step one, the best way to change your self-image is to start doing the actions of the person, of the self-image that you'd like to have. If you'd like to have the image of a confident, healthy person, then start doing things that person would do, right? Start going and exercising and eating like that person. Start talking like that person. If you don't want to be lazy, stop saying I'm lazy and start saying I'm not lazy. Or in the past I've been lazy, but I'm not lazy anymore. Stop classifying yourself and start doing the things that a non-lazy person would do. And then you'll automatically, your self-image will change, because your self-image is also a reflection of what actions that you take, right? And the distinction here, what I talked about with the rubber band, is the difference between not trying to not do something, that's pulling the rubber band back, versus doing something. Right. And it seems like the same thing, but it's very different. If I wanted to quit smoking, right, like not smoking is pulling the rubber band back. I'm stopping myself from doing something. I'm using willpower. Right. Instead, if I say, what would a non-smoker, super, athletic, person do, super healthy person do? And I start doing those things. And so I start going to a yoga class, and I start eating, avocado toast or whatever, healthy, and meditating and doing these kind of things. Now I'm taking action and becoming that. I'm changing my self-image, as opposed to trying to not do things. Trying to not do things is a recipe for disaster. You have to change the nature. So that's number one. And then number two is that also we are what our environment is, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're a cucumber and you want to become a pickle, all you got to do is soak yourself in brine, in pickle brine. You will become a pickle. It will take some time. So if you want to change your self-image, you change all of the influences around you, right? When I'm running, I'm listening to audiobooks all the time, positive books. This is the message I want to have in my head, right? That's why I'm listening to Tony Robbins. That's why, right? Even if you don't like the guy, even if you think that he's a crackpot, he's giving you a positive message, right? Maybe you've been sitting in this negative message. You're sitting in the cubicle and all your coworkers are like, yeah, that'll never work. Or you can't do this business idea, or you're not good enough, right? Get the positive message. Like stop watching TV, period. Because that's not a positive. Just stop. It's wasting your time. Stop. In fact, stop watching movies for the most part. Maybe, every once in a while, because it's not a positive message. Start reading books. Pick the good books, okay? To get around people that are positive, that are saying the right things, that are doing things, that believe in themselves, that are encouraging you, right? If you have negative, toxic people in your life, even if they're your family, just say, hey, look, sorry, I love you, but I can't hang out with you, right? Like, just get them out of your life, cut them out, right? It might be painful. Doesn't mean you have to hate their guts. It just means you don't spend the time with them. And instead, surround yourself by positive people. And that's the thing. And, there's a Ralph Waldo Emerson quote that says that, I can't remember the exact phrasing, but he says essentially this, that who you are speaks louder than what you say, right? So like essentially what it means is that like ultimately who you are is like going to determine all your actions, everything in your life, right? It's going to be so that focus on changing that self-image is critical. So so basically, yes, take the actions of the person that you want to become, and that will shift you, and create your environment to be in the inputs. We're a product of our inputs, so change your inputs.
I have one question. Actually, I have two questions. But first things first. I just want to know, what's your vision?
That's a good question. I to be totally honest with you, I don't know the answer to that question. I only look a few steps ahead, right? I've got sort of this, I feel like, you should have this kind of like 5-year vision, like, but that's the direction you're headed. And then you look a few steps ahead of you and you constantly revise that, right? Mm-hmm. So right now with what I'm doing, on my head is like, I need to run this marathon. So I need to train for this. I need to, and then I've got some, some business things, but I want to grow Bulldog mindset. I want to reach more people. That's sort of my big vision, is to grow the channel to 1 million subscribers, to write a new book, right? So I've got those things, but ultimately I know that you can't chart a 5-year course in life, right? It's not going to happen. What's going to happen is you think ahead and you spin yourself that direction, but you also got to let yourself go to where things are going to take you. If I look back 5 years from now in the past, I would never have thought that I would be doing what I'm doing now. Like it doesn't even make, and if I go 10 years, I didn't plan that out. Like, but I went down the path that presented itself to me. That was the best path. So I keep it pretty flexible, and I don't have a huge, I don't believe in goals. I believe in systems, right? Mm-hmm. And there's actually a really good book on this. It's called, How to Lose at Anything and Still Win Big. It's by Scott Adams, the guy that writes the Dilbert cartoon. And in that, he talks about the same exact thing. He doesn't do goals either. He does systems, because systems take you, right? And goals are so, if I set a goal, if I said, I want to have 1 million YouTube subscribers in 2 years, I don't have control over that goal. I can influence the goal, but I cannot make that happen. And so if I judge myself by that's success. It's not a good goal. A goal, I could set a goal today that says I'm going to make 1 YouTube video every day and publish it. That's a goal I could achieve, right? Because I am in full control of that. There's nothing else, right? Now, what I tend to do is this: if I want to have 1 million YouTube subscribers, in fact, this is what I did when I hit my 100,000. Is I said, okay, I want to have 100,000 YouTube subscribers on my channel. So I said, I bet if I produce 2,000 videos, that I will have 100,000. I bet that's the case. So my goal was to produce 2,000 videos. Right. And so I worked backwards from that and said, okay, well, I probably need to do about 2 to 3 videos a day. And that was it within my power. And that became a system which drove me, right? So that's how I got there. But yeah, I don't have a huge, like, vision, right now. It's more about just going the direction that I'm going, and being open to let that direction change.
I like it. And I have one more question, because that's definitely something that many people will ask themselves. Are you single?
No, I'm not.
I didn't see that one coming.
No, yeah. Right? I was really wondering, like, should I bring it up? I'm like, nah, yes. Maybe people want to know that.
No, I try to keep like all the like I'm, as far as me, I'm an open book. Like, you can ask me pretty much any question. I'll share any kind of personal details that relate to me. But as far as like family members and relationships, I pretty much I keep that out. A lot of it is because I say a lot of controversial things, and I'm constantly, even just with me having that policy, every once in a while, certain family members will get messaged by people and stuff, and they haven't chosen to be in the limelight, so I keep them out of it for sure.
I love this interview so far. Like what we have here right now, I think we're on the way for less than an hour, and we have almost a complete guide to personal leadership, going from the starting point to knowing exactly which actions to take, how to understand what a personal brand is, self-image, how to take action, start changing behaviors, getting out there. Like, you spelled it all out for the listeners. So I love that. And I immediately put myself in the shoes of the listener. And I hope that everybody who's listening right now has defined at least one thing that they'll implement. One small change, one book you mentioned, or one habit you mentioned that people are committed to trying out. Now, there may be one hurdle stopping people from doing that, and that is the constraint that we're all battling against every day of our lives: time. I can imagine that the ability to work smart rather than just hard has played a major role in your life and career. Setting all of this up, the things you built, all the videos you created, the blogs, the business, you must have learned at some point how to become really effective, how to spend every hour of your day doing the most important thing you could be doing, be purpose driven, and achieve those results. What is it that you can recommend to our audience to start implementing, or what can people do to create that bit extra time so they can start that upward spiral for themselves?
So there's a few things. I'll start with the person who is working that cubicle job, working for someone else, because I think most people are there. And this advice is not popular with employers, but I'm an employer myself. So I feel like I can give this advice, which is do not work more than 40 hours a week for your employer. Okay. Work hard, bust your ass. Okay. Do not shortchange them. Like, as someone who pays other people to work for me, I want you to work hard for me. I want you to give your all, to give your best, but do not waste more time than what the minimum is required for you to do your job and to do a good job at it. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of people think, they're just like, oh, well, now everyone works 60 hours here, or I'm working overtime. I'm climbing the ladder. Like I won't be appreciated. I'll lose my. Here's the thing. It's like all that time that you put in for building someone else's empire, it's not going to be remembered. No one's going to care. When there's layoffs, I don't care how big the company is, they're just going to lay you off like anyone else. And they'll be like, oh yeah, I remember Joe. He worked really hard. He was a good guy. And then in 1 year, no one will remember Joe. Okay. So you're not, it feels noble. And I understand it because I used to do the same thing, but it's really not getting you anywhere, right? It's exhausting you. It's taking your time. You need to be focusing on you and building your empire and building your things. And even if you're not building a business as an entrepreneur, build your life, right? Go and start training for a triathlon or something, like do something like, or read books and focus on personal development, right? Use your time wisely, right? Working for someone else is not the best way to use your time. Yes, you have to do it. You have to make a living. I understand. You've got a mortgage, right? And whatnot, and you got bills to pay and people to support, but realize that time is your most valuable asset, and you don't want to give that away very easily. And in fact, just in general, you should be thinking in terms of that. I don't want to trade dollars for hours, right? Because that's, almost everything that I do in life, and this is kind of is the way to leverage, to work smart, is I will almost always do things that will pay me for a long time coming. Right. So if I make a YouTube video, or even if I record a podcast, or if I produce a piece of content or write a book, it's going to benefit me for a long time. Right. It's not just a one-time transaction. So that's the first thing I would say is do that. And I'll tell you this one thing, because I always get pushback on this as well, is I worked in environments. I mean, I was a software developer. OK, this is where, you drink Mountain Dew and you stay up all night working on code. And I flat out refuse to work more than 40 hours, right? A lot of people are working 60, but you know what? When I was there, I was busting my ass working the 40. I did a better job. I was like, I dare you to fire me. Like, you're going to fire your best person because they're not working overtime? Go for it. I'll find another job. Not a problem. Like, there's plenty of people that want to hire me because I'm a hard worker, right? Because I get done in 20 hours what people get done in 60. So be that. Okay. And then you won't have to worry, right? Everyone else will be brown nosing and working their 60 hours, but they'll see you going home at exactly on the dot. But you'll be producing the results. And if they don't appreciate it, you'll go somewhere else, right? That it's more important to do that, because over the course of your career, that's a lot of hours that you're going to be giving up for someone else. It's not worth it. So you can do it. And I never got fired from a job, right? I worked plenty of jobs where everyone else was working 60, and John thought he was special because he's working 40, but I don't care. Look, now I say, well, look where I am now. Like, you're still there. You're still working 60 hours, and I've built an empire in the meantime. So that's number one. The number two thing I would say is with time, like how I manage my time, is I've got a video, maybe I'll send you the link for it. It's how I plan my week. And the basics of this is that I use the Pomodoro technique, which is basically where you set a timer for 25 minutes, you work focused, no interruptions, and you don't allow any interruptions for 25 minutes, then you take a 5-minute break, and then you repeat that process. But what I do is I use a Kanban board, which is like Trello. Most people, I use a software called Kanban Flow, and I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday on there, right? And then I've got a column that's like next week or upcoming, and then I've got a column for today, and then done. Okay. And what I'll do is at the beginning of the week, I take the cards that I have created, all the stuff that I need to get done, and I rate these cards. Is it going to take me 1 Pomodoro? Is it going to take me 2 Pomodori, 3 Pomodori? And 3 is the max. Mm-hmm. If it's more than 3, if it's 4 or more, it needs to be broken down into smaller tasks. Okay, because the thing is, you can't estimate more than 2 hours. It's the smaller the interval is, the better your estimation is, and you want to be accurate. So what I'll do is at the beginning of my week, I know I'm going to, my goal for a typical day is to get 10 Pomodori done. Now this changes depending on schedule and whatnot, right? But let's say that's 10, maybe it's 5, okay? That doesn't seem like a lot. Like 10 is essentially 5 hours of work, but it's 5 focused hours of work. Mm-hmm. That's a big difference. Okay. And so what I'll do is I'll take all of those cards and I will slot it for the day. I know I have 10 slots, 10 Pomodori worth for Monday, for Tuesday, for Wednesday, for Thursday, for Friday. Fill that entire thing up and it all estimated. And then when I get to work, I know exactly what I'm supposed to work on. I know I'm supposed to focus for 10 hours, or not for 10 hours, for 10 Pomodori and get these, and I don't care if the stuff gets done. It might take longer. My estimation might be off, but I'm going to try to estimate as accurate as possible. And my only job for the day is to work that 10 Pomodori that I'm supposed to work and to work on the tasks in the order that I have them. Okay. Now, at the beginning of every day, I'll read through the board, right? So I'll basically go through and I'll say, okay, well, this didn't get done. My estimation was off, and I'll replan it based on my new time, what's left, and make that true. So that, one of the things that stops people from achieving their goals is that if you ever feel like you have something that you cannot get done, either because of time or some other thing, you don't know how to do it, procrastination is the result, right? If you know what you're supposed to do and you know you can do it, you won't procrastinate. Mm-hmm. That's why when we procrastinate, we go to things that we know we can do. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's the key. So I'll read through it so that I'm always being honest with myself. No to-do lists with 15 things that you're not going to get done in the day. My goal is to get the 10 Pomodori done, and I am in control of that. And so every day I take the things from the column, move them into the today column, and just start working through them. And I've gotten really good at estimating. I know, and also time boxes, right? So when I was writing blog posts every week, I would have 3 Pomodori for a blog post. Mm-hmm. And magically every week I would get it done in 3 because I know that's what it needs to be done in, and I get it done, right? Very rarely would it go over, but most of the time it'd be right on the nose. So that's the key is to organize that. And then if you're not getting done what you want to get done, that the problem is priority. It's not that you're not working hard enough, right? It's none of those things. Because if you're focused doing 10 Pomodoro, or how much time you allotted per day to work, and you're doing that work and you're working on the right things, then the only problem that can exist is the order of what you're doing things, right? So those are probably the 2 biggest things, tips I would say as far as time management and productivity.
Love it.
That is huge. When people start applying these type of of extra activities, because that's how it feels like at first, right? Managing yourself, that feels like creating an extra job for yourself.
Right.
Your own manager,
Yeah.
and you're already so busy. And what people only can see through experience is that once you start investing that little bit of time to plan your day and tell yourself what to work on, then everything else becomes easier. But you have to go through that experience.
Yep, very true.
I am still amazed by the amount of value that you can find in this episode. To everyone listening, are you that person who wants to grow, deep inside knows that you can do it, but something seems to hold you back? Well, take a close look at John's journey and decide which habit you would like to adopt and which habit you would like to throw overboard in return. Habit by habit, you change your life just the way he did. Do you also feel so inspired by John's story and the incredible transformation? Doesn't it feel amazing to know you can create the life of your dreams? Go and follow John's journey, and you can do it in 2 ways. Visit his Simple Programmer blog to learn more about his IT world on simpleprogrammer.com, or you can subscribe to John's YouTube channel called Bulldog Mindset.
Every person is able to transform their life when they have a Bulldog mindset and live by empowering habits. Our do-it-yourself coaching program is designed in such a way that anyone can implement success habits into their own lives. When your aim is to turn high-potential employees into intrapreneurs, make sure you get our ebook on earnmoreworkless.com/ebook. This podcast was our gift to you. We hope it has inspired you. To receive an update every Tuesday when a new episode is available, you can subscribe via earnmoreworkless.com/podcast. Did you enjoy this podcast? Please tell your friends and colleagues about it. Share it on social media so that more people create the abundant life they deserve. Lots of love from Amsterdam. Now go out, connect with people, and have fun.